It's a new episode of Bazaar. I'm your host Sid, and today we will talk about a player that is tapping into the growth of airport lounges. Uh, Initially I thought how big could this market possibly be, right? How many people use airport lounges or airport services in general? But I was quite wrong. I was traveling from Indore to Bangalore last week, and I was sitting at the airport at 2 a.m. in the night, feeling quite sleepy, just trying to stay awake. And I was probably working on some presentation. I'm a workaholic. And I'm not kidding. Uh, I saw people lining up to get inside a premium lounge. People were using those credit cards. Some were even paying cash, right, to get inside that lounge. And I was like, who does that, right? Like, is that how big this market is, or like, is this how lucrative it is to be inside a lounge? But like, people were paying to get inside a premium lounge and not just sit outside like the rest of us. So I started to read a little bit about the players in this industry, and turns out there's just one player in this market which is listed right now. The company we're talking about is DreamFolks Services, and the stock had a steep correction in August post its Q1 results, and that got me thinking: is this a good opportunity to buy, right? And why did the stock correct in the first place, right? Is the business model weak? All sorts of questions came in my mind, and to understand that, let's understand the business first. So, DreamFolks is the leading airport services aggregator in India. It has a monopoly. 95% of all airport access goes through DreamFolks. It provides services like spa, airport transfer, duty free benefits as well. And in simpler terms, it is the Zomato of the airport services market, right? The business model is simple. People want to be able to use lounges for free. You don't want to pay for it. Banks want to sell their credit cards, and lounge owners want to make more money, right? The only problem is an individual lounge owner cannot approach a big bank, right? They don't have enough business to give to a bank. So, and they also don't have a platform where they can track how many people use their lounges, right? So there is a gap in the market, and the people at DreamFolks understood this gap, and what they did was they created a platform where it aggregates all of this. So what it does is it onboards lounge owners, it onboards banks, card issuer guys, and what it does is it takes money from the banks whenever a card holder stays in a lounge, and it pays money to the lounge owners, right? And the differential amount is their gross margin. So as more people use airports, traffic would increase, more people would use lounges, and that should benefit DreamFolks. At least that's the idea, right? So how good is the business, right? How good is the business model? Let's take a look at some of the positives right now for DreamFolks. So first point is that DreamFolks has a 95% market share, like I mentioned, of the card-based lounge access in India, and it basically operates a monopoly. It has no competition at the domestic market, and it also recently collaborated with Plaza Premium Group to include 340 Plaza lounges in 70 plus international airports in the DreamFolks network, right? So like, it's a monopoly right now. So there's no competition, and every increase in every person who is going to the airport and using a premium lounge, that's directly benefiting DreamFolks, right? Which brings me to my next point. DreamFolks currently derives 95% of its revenues from the airport lounge access market. To diversify its revenue sources, it is entering into new business verticals like visa services, travel sim, golf services, etc. Because you cannot be reliant on just one source of revenue. That's a big risk as well. Uh, Third, I would say, is that the company is a proxy for air passenger growth in India. People want to save time and travel by air, even though it's not exactly cheap. Like, the disposable income in India is rising. You can see more people using airports instead of going by air, rail or buses, right? That's a good thing. People are getting more richer, and currently in India, only 8% of the existing air passenger traffic avails lounge access. So like out of 100 only 8 people actually go to lounges, right? Even though in Indore I saw like at least 50% go, but I don't know, like this is the overall aggregate. And any increase in air passenger, which is going to happen in the future, people will use more air services. This will lead to direct revenue benefit for DreamFolks, right? And like that's a direct impact on the top line. Fourth point I would say is that DreamFolks also caters to the railway sector, like it also caters to railway lounges. It's the only player to do that. There are not many railway lounges, and whatever are there in India, DreamFolks caters to that. So this segment doesn't contribute much to the revenues right now, obviously, but has the potential to move the needle as Indian Railways gets modernized and more lounges are built in the future. Like I think even Indian Railways are, you can see more high speed railways getting built, and people would want to use railways more in the future. And if you build lounges, that's an added benefit, and people would use that. So DreamFolks could benefit from that segment. I think it would take some time for that to kick in, but it's an added benefit, right? And lastly, I would say revenue grew by 3x in FY23 due to a lower base last year. The business model is asset light, and enjoys a high return on capital of 62% for FY23. I would like to see if the company can consistently report good numbers, right? Because Q1 was not that great. Like Q1 was weak and the stock fell because of that, like fell significantly, like 20% in a span of 3 or 4 days, which says that the market believes that the business model is not that great. So now that we've taken a look at the positives, let us also talk about the negatives and why did the stock drop so much in a span of 5 days. So the reason for this is because the company does not have any bargaining power. That's the biggest risk that the company faces right now. It does not have any bargaining power with its suppliers and buyers, and in its investor calls as well, the company has suggested that the gross margin cannot exceed 15%. So if a lounge operator increases its costs, DreamFolks cannot pass that cost to the banks or the card issuers, right? It has to absorb that cost itself, which is what happened in Q1. Like there was a one-time common area maintenance charges which was levied by many lounges, right? And DreamFolks had to pay that, right? And they could not recover it from the bank. So this is the biggest risk. Does not have any bargaining power. And when we analyze companies, we want to see companies that have pricing power, because that is what differentiates great businesses from good businesses, right? So this is the biggest risk. Second, the company claims it has built a proprietary tech platform, but in reality there's nothing stopping new players to build a similar platform, right? Like when Indian air traffic grows and this market becomes lucrative for international players, right, global players like Priority Pass, Lounge Buddy, Dragon Pass, nothing stops them from entering the Indian market and to take away market share from DreamFolks. So there is no barrier to entry right now. And DreamFolks is adding more international lounges to its network, but that will truly benefit it when it also partners with international banks or card issuers of those countries, right? Because right now, if you have an Indian card and if you go to an airport in Singapore and you use that Indian card, only then it would benefit DreamFolks. If you use an international card, it doesn't benefit DreamFolks. So, right, it has to build relationships with international banks and card issuers, and that is going to be a little difficult to do because current players like Priority Pass already have a stronghold on the international market. And lastly, to wrap this up, I would say the company has not shown strong financial controls. Like it did not have a CFO until 2021 when it was gearing up for its IPO, and it also had failed to file its financial statements with the MCA in the past. And for Q2, the company's receivables were greater than the revenue for the quarter, indicating that the company has major issues in recovering receivables from its customers. So that's not a good metric to have, and would mean that it needs more working capital to manage its business. So to conclude, I would say at a PE of 38 times, at a market cap of 2,800 crore, The company is fairly priced. It's not very expensive. I like what they've built. They have a monopoly in the airport services market. It is a direct play for the growth in air traffic in India, and it is also venturing into new business ventures like golf services, visa services, eSIMs, etc. Right, and railway lounges also is a great play. Right, I mean, if railway traffic grows in the future, more lounges are built, DreamFolks could benefit from it. Also, it has negligible debt. It's an asset-light business, and it has a good return on capital. The main problem is the business model is not strong. It does not have control on the pricing with the banks. There is no barrier to entry. Global players can build a tech platform like DreamFolks has built. DreamFolks has only 68 employees as of 31st March, which means that not a lot of effort is required to maintain the tech platform, and it derives 95% of revenues from airport lounge access, which means any drop in passenger traffic would directly impact the business, right? Anything like COVID or any viruses spread, people stop traveling, like the business goes for a toss. So that's a big risk, and the company already operates a monopoly in India, which leaves little room for growth domestically. Like, the only thing that could benefit is if the number of people increase, right? Because it already captures like 95% of the sector. So it has to venture out into the international market, which is going to be a bit difficult because there is stiff competition over there. So I would wait for the new business streams to kick in a big way before I feel comfortable investing in the stock. However, I would definitely keep tabs on the company. It is an interesting player in the airport services market. That's my thoughts, and I would love to know your thoughts. Like, what are your thoughts on the company? Have you invested in it? How has your experience been using airport lounges? Have you paid for an airport lounge also? I want to know that. So let me know that in the comment section. And that will bring us to the end of this podcast. Like always, do your own research before you invest in any stock, before you put your money in stocks and securities. I am not an investment advisor, but I will keep bringing new opportunities to your knowledge. Keep reading, keep investing. If you have any stock ideas, reach out to me, and take care, and we will catch you in the next episode.